Hello tubers, this is Kurt with Edibles and Exotics coming to you from sunny Mesa, Arizona. And today I'm going to do a video on making your own black earth soil, or Terra preta. So what I'm standing next to here, this is not a garbage can, right? This is from the city of Mesa. I'm in Mesa, right? They have a composting program. So if you are a Mesa resident, you can call up the city of Mesa. These compost bins, they are recycled garbage cans from the city. What they do is they cut off the bottom, all right, and they drill holes all the way around them. And then they give it to you for a $5 delivery fee. It's yours to keep. You can do whatever you want. I checked with them. I'm actually getting one for my co-host, George. He needs a compost bin, and he thought this would be a good idea. If you do get one of these, what I recommend, since the holes in them are quite large, I would recommend getting like either tarp or painter's plastic and just tuck it in around the inside of the lid and then just drape it around the sides. Leave it loose, don't tuck it in on the bottom, but that will help conserve moisture in your bin so you're not going through water like crazy, okay? So this bin here, I really neglect my compost bin. I just keep filling it, and usually every 2 years, a year to 2 years, when I get some time, I dump it out and I spread it in my yard somewhere, and then usually that's when I'm getting a chip drop, so it goes underneath the wood chips. So I've been filling this one up now for about 2 years, and it just keeps going down and down and down. I have an irrigation line from my backyard irrigation run over to this with 2 sprayers. And basically, if you watch my other video on watering, you know I water basically from like somewhere around 11 in the morning until around 6 o'clock in the evening every day on the hour for about 2 minutes each time. So getting quite a bit of water, so it keeps this guy moist. I don't have to come out and spray it with the hose that much. I don't really turn it. I kind of neglect it. That's why it takes so long. If you guys have read about composting, you know you want about 2 to 1 when it comes to greens to browns. So your greens are going to be your nitrogen sources. Those are going to be grass clippings, food scraps, basically the juicy stuff. And then your browns are going to be your carbons, which are your dry stuff, like dried leaves, cardboard, branches, stuff like that. So I'm not going to do a whole video on composting right now. This is all going to be about making black earth soil. I'm sure you guys have heard of Terra preta. That is the Portuguese term. But black earth soil is found all over the world. All right, it's found in the United States, it's found in Europe, it's found in Australia, it's found in Asia, it's found in Africa, South America, everywhere. All right, and people don't know exactly how it was made. There's really no written record. What I would assume the way it was made was people either slashing and burning forest land to grow crops, or possibly burning garbage piles, or whatever they did. You know, maybe they had help from ancient aliens. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, and I'm sure a lot of other people can't either. But black earth soil is basically soil with a really high carbon content. All right. So I'm going to show you guys how to make that today. It's very simple. You don't really need compost. You could pretty much just skip the compost and go straight to the ground, which I'll explain a little bit later. But for the purpose of this video, to make it a little entertaining, we're going to dump this compost bin out, and I'm going to show you guys what I do. So this is the compost bin. It's kind of gross looking. You can see this spot apparently was getting a lot more water than the rest, so it really smushed down. But I just throw everything in here. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. So we're going to start out with this compost bin. I'm not exactly sure how big it is. They say it's a cubic yard. It doesn't look like a cubic yard to me. It's probably like a half a cubic yard or less. I would say it's probably about 2 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet wide at the top here. So I went to Walmart and I came across this. This was a steal, guys. this is one thing you're going to need. All right, you're going to need your carbon source. So what I use is lump charcoal. All right, you can't use briquettes because briquettes, they either have lighter fluid added to them if it's a match light type charcoal, or they're going to have binders. So they grind up regular charcoal and they usually add like sawdust to it and some other stuff to make it stick, and then they compress it and they make the little briquettes. But this is what we want. So this is oak and hickory hardwood lump charcoal. All right, like I said, I got this at Walmart. This stuff was a steal. It's a 15-pound bag and it's only 12 bucks. So if you look inside, let me pull some of this out here. So this is what it's going to look like. It's basically wood that has been burned in the absence of oxygen. All right, and what that does is it bakes all the resins and all the moisture and everything out of there, so you're just left with the carbon skeleton of the wood. All right, so this is going to be the beginning of your black earth soil. All right, now this is just regular charcoal, right? Lump hardwood charcoal. People sell online bio-char. All right, bio-char is basically the exact same thing that's in these two bags. But what they do is they inoculate it with either fertilizers or soil microbes, mycorrhiza, stuff like that. And they usually mix it with some sort of soil or something like that. It's usually somewhat moist when it's delivered, and it's quite expensive. You buy it in tiny, tiny bags, probably smaller than these. And these bags are going to cost you anywhere from $20 all the way up to like $200, $300. It's very expensive. So if you make it by yourself in your backyard, it's going to save you a ton of money. So the compost bin, like I said, it was a $5 delivery fee. You have to keep it. These bags were 12 bucks each. The compost that's in the bin took me about a year to make, just because I don't really pay attention to the bin. I could probably get this bin to complete compost if I really wanted to in about 1 to 3 months, depending on the time of the year and what I add to it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to dump this bin out. We're going to mix it all up. We're going to add this lump charcoal. Well, first we're going to smash it up. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, because you got to break it up into smaller bits, not dust, but smaller bits. And then we're going to add some kitchen scraps, and we're going to add a dead papaya tree, some grass clippings, and just some yard waste, grass and stuff like that. We're going to mix it all up. We're going to put it all back together. We're going to water it in, and it's going to be great in probably about 2-3 months, because I'm going to really keep up with this, because I'm going to do another video in the future showing you guys where I add it, how I add it, and then I'll do a follow-up video in the spring, hopefully, and show you the results. So you guys might be asking, you know, what is black earth soil, Terra preta, biochar, you know, what's so great about it? So the great thing about it is it's got a very, like, almost like a microscopic honeycomb structure to it. All right, it retains moisture. It holds on to nutrients. So if you do fertilize, or if you're totally organic, whatever nutrients that you put into the soil, the charcoal or biochar, whatever you want to call it, will actually absorb that. It'll hold on to the moisture, hold on to the nutrients, and it also creates a great environment for soil microbes, fungus, bacteria, all that sort of stuff. Really, really small things. And what that does is it helps develop soil-plant relationships. So your plants depend on the soil life depends on the plants. All right, they exchange nutrients, they protect each other. It's just part of nature. It's the whole life cycle. So if you guys do some research on, the most popular is Terra preta. That's where a lot of the research is done, and that is in the Amazon. To sum it up, basically, there's sections of the Amazon where people lived, you know, up to 3,000 years ago, and the soil there is super dark, super rich, very black. Everything can grow there. You can grow crops there. Whereas most of the rest of the Amazon, it gets so much rainfall, all the nutrients are just washed away. And the soil, they say it's some of the poorest soil on earth. It's basically clay, very little nutrients in the soil, very little organic matter, and it's very acidic. So a lot of things have a hard time growing there. It's usually pretty damp and wet. So if you've watched my other videos about how plants grow with the root systems and everything, I did a whole bunch of cutaways and talked all about that. So you can check out my video series on how to grow tropicals, and it's in there. All the videos are excellent. They explain a lot. Basically, so in the Amazon, these people are farming this soil. They're digging it up, selling it as potting soil. They're making tons of money on it. But what scientists have discovered is if you leave a certain amount of subsoil with the Terra preta still intact, when you put new soil on top of it, it'll actually heal itself, and the new soil that you put on top will actually start to turn black and turn back into Terra preta, black earth soil. If you guys are growing tropicals, it's definitely worth giving this a try, because it could save you on water, it could save you on fertilizer, it can make your plants grow better, less input, less money, all that sort of stuff. So it could be very beneficial to you guys. It's super cheap, it's easy to do, it's fun to do. And you know, when you see the results for yourself, you're gonna be wishing you did it a long time ago. So let's get into this process now. We're gonna dump this compost bin out. I'm gonna show you all the nasty bugs and whatnot that are in there, and we're gonna start turning it up, adding our crushed up charcoal, and then our kitchen scraps and yard waste. All right, guys, so I filmed the whole layering of the compost bin with the charcoal and everything, and for whatever reason my camera decided to stop filming halfway through, and so I sat around for a day or two and came up with an idea. I made these wire compost bins a couple of years ago, and they've just been sitting around. I used to have one here, so I got a spray head off my irrigation already on the hose running to the black compost bin. So we're going to start a new compost bin with the charcoal, and it's going to be a nice fresh one because I do have a lot of yard waste. I just trimmed everything up yesterday. Not everything, but a lot of stuff. So I get a lot of sugar cane, papaya, and stuff like that. And we're going to use some of the existing compost in the black bin to get this one going. So we're going to put some papaya in here, some sugar cane, some existing compost, and the charcoal. So right now I'm going to show you how I smash up this charcoal into smaller bits and what size you're going to need to make some black earth compost. All right, guys, so what I recommend for this, if you have a metal bucket, that'd probably be the best way to go. You could smash it directly on concrete or the ground, but if you do it on concrete, it's probably going to turn your concrete black, and it may take a little while to wash out. So this is just an old plant pot. So you're going to need one of these, and then something to smash it with. I just use this sledgehammer. I put the stuff in there, and I just smash it around a little bit, and it breaks it up into smaller pieces that are the size we need. So we're going to do this in smaller batches. I wouldn't fill it more than halfway. We're just going to put this on the ground, take our sledgehammer. You don't have to go crazy, but just mash it up. Give it a little shake. Smash it up and you're done. So the pieces we're looking for are going to be somewhere around this size, all right? Just little pieces like that. That's all we want. This is very dusty doing this, so you might want to wear a dust mask. It'll probably make you sneeze. I don't think it's going to affect you, but if you do this a lot, breathing in all this dust is probably not healthy, and you may develop health issues. So I would recommend, if you're doing it, to wear a mask. All right, so on the ground here, I got a mix of papaya leaves, some sugar cane, and some dead banana leaves. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this in first. There's a pretty good mixture of greens to browns. All right, so that's in there. Now we got a dead papaya stalk. Kind of gross. It's starting to rot already. That's going in. Put some more leaves in there. Now we're going to take a couple of scoops of our finished compost and put that on top. Again, this is what it looks like. Nice and black and crumbly. Now we're going to dump in our half bucket of charcoal. And we're going to crush some more up and add a little bit more. And then we're just going to keep layering it that way. All right, so we got another dead papaya tree here. We're going to take that, chop it up, if we can. It's kind of gross. Try to fold it in there. All right, we're going to top it off with some more charcoal. We're going to finish this bag off, and then we're going to top that off with some finished compost. All right, guys, so what I normally do with these now, since I am running an irrigation line, and to hold in the moisture, I take a black garbage bag and I just slip it over the top. So this garbage bag, I didn't cut the top or anything open. This is just going to hold in moisture. So I'm just going to puncture a little hole in the top here with a knife. I got my sprayer on there. Make sure it's set to fully open. And I'm just going to drop it on through the hole I made. And that's it. Our new bin's going to get watered automatically. We don't have to worry about it. And this will probably sink down in about 2 weeks, and we could fill it back up and keep the process going. All right, guys, that's it. That's all you have to do. Just layer it up like lasagna and use some finished compost always to start your compost. That way you have the microbes in there. One thing I do also is I add a little bit of fertilizer now and again. If the pile starts slowing down, I add a nitrogen source. So basically ammonium sulfate. I will also add at the beginning of the composting process, if I'm starting off with a fresh new batch and the bin is nice and full, I'll add a little bit of all-purpose slow and fast release granules just to kick the pile off. Now, this pile is going to absorb, even without the charcoal in there, it's going to absorb all those nutrients and hold on to them really good. So when you put your compost down, you probably won't have to fertilize for a year or two. That's how long it'll hold on to those nutrients, depending on how thick you spread it. By adding the charcoal and making black earth soil or Terra preta, it's going to hold on to those nutrients a lot longer. So I have this bin completely full. My compost was actually pretty much done except for that top layer of tree collards that I added. So in my compost bin, if I have too much used soil, I'll dump it in there. I dump perlite in there, use vermiculite, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's not just organics, it's also a mixture of potting soil and stuff like that. So that's basically what it looks like. It's filled to the brim. The next step is going to be to add my sprayers. So we're going to add these guys back in here. Basically just set them on the top here like this. We're going to close the lid on it, and that's going to keep our compost moist, and we're not going to have to go crazy worrying about watering it all the time. So one more thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to film it, but I'm going to drag the hose over here, put it on the shower setting, and just soak this pile. But it was actually pretty moist, so it should be pretty good. When you turn your compost piles, guys, The more often, the better. It's a lot of work, especially in the summer when they're really cooking, but you don't want to compact anything down. So when you put your compost back in the bin, don't push it down like you're trying to compact garbage in a garbage can. Leave it nice and light and fluffy, all right? The more air in there and the more moisture, the faster it's going to go and turn into soil. And it's just like your plants, guys. You don't want to put a plant in the ground and then stomp all the soil down and push all the air out. You want to keep it nice and airy and moist. So guys, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that you don't have to make black earth soil with compost. You could just do it right into the soil. So if you're planting plants, if you don't have a mulch layer down, you could buy bags of charcoal, crush them up, put them in a bin in your garage or out back or something. And before you put your wood chips down, you could sprinkle a layer about 1 inch, 2 inches thick of that charcoal, and then put your wood chips down on top of that. You could also do that with the compost. If you make compost like I do, and you add charcoal to it before you put your mulch down, or if you're replenishing your mulch, if your mulch is really cooked down and you're going to get another chip drop or however you're going to do it, leaves, whatever, you can put down your compost mixed with your charcoal and then put your mulch on top of that. So you don't need to do the compost bin if you guys don't have the time for it, don't have the room for it, don't want to deal with it. You could put the charcoal directly on top of your soil and then just put a layer of mulch over the top of it. You don't have to mix it in. If you're starting with a fresh yard, it's always good to mix in some organics into the top foot or so of the soil, and then add a layer of topsoil and then a layer of charcoal crushed up and then a layer of mulch. So you don't have to crush the charcoal up really fine. All right, it's better to have it like I showed you, about the size of a quarter. Even bigger pieces are okay. Bigger is better than dust, all right? The dust is not going to really work as good. It'll make your soil look black because it's carbon, but it's not going to give you the effects you want, all right? So if you add even just bigger chunks and you skip the whole breaking up process, over time it will break up by itself. It'll, as water goes into it, it swells up from the water, and then it dries out and shrinks a little bit. It's going to break it apart. Tree roots are going to, soil microbes are going to. So, you know, when they made this stuff, you know, all over the world, thousands of years ago, and they were basically what people consider the Stone Age almost. These people, they weren't doing any sort of temperature testing, no scientific stuff, nothing like that. They were just burning this stuff and then covering it up with some soil to put it out and waiting a couple of weeks and then planting in it, all right? So this stuff, it works great. It even works in nature. If you have a densely planted forest somewhere and wildfire rips through and then it rains and it puts all that fire out, you're left with a lot of charcoal. Another great thing about it is this charcoal, once you put it in your soil, it's gonna stay there forever. All right, it's gonna outlast you, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, probably the country you're living in. It's gonna last for thousands of years. It's never gonna go away, all right? And over time, it will wash deeper and deeper into the soil, which is another good thing. So the nutrients, the moisture, all that sort of stuff is gonna go down deeper into the soil. So another thing I forgot to mention is plants don't actually use this carbon, all right? This carbon is more for the soil, all right? The carbon that your plants use to grow comes out of the air in the form of CO2. All right, they, I'm sure you guys have always heard it's good to have house plants because they produce oxygen. What they actually do is they actually take CO2 out of the air and they split that into carbon and oxygen. They use the carbon to grow because they're carbon-based life forms, and they release the oxygen back into the room, and that's what you breathe. So they're not taking this carbon that comes from the charcoal and using it to grow. This is just mainly for the soil, okay? So guys, I hope that video was interesting. I'm gonna do some updates in a couple of months, probably in the springtime when the compost is pretty much finished, and we're gonna mix it up and we're gonna spread this out, and then we're gonna do another chip drop and layer that with fresh arborist wood chips. And I'm going to show you next summer how it's not going to need anything. It's just everything's going to grow on its own. Just add water. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, tell all your friends, and stay tuned for more videos on my video series of how to grow tropicals in the desert. So until the next video, guys, keep growing.